How did the devil become the Lord and the tyrant over humanity? He was a prince in the corridors of heaven, because the first world that existed had only princes, angelic functionaries, because the spirit realm was predominantly God's civilization. However, there was a first earth, and the first earth that existed had a governor, and that governor was one of the princes in the throne room. God sent him to the earth to put the earth under government and alignment to the heavens. But the point came where that prince decided to rebel against God, because he felt he also could do what God does, and on the strength of that he could dethrone God. But God was not elected. How do you dethrone him? Anywhere God goes to becomes the throne. So even if you dethrone God today and God comes to earth, earth now becomes headquarters. So you can't dethrone him. It's not politics where you shift the president from Abuja and it's no longer. If God leaves Abuja and goes to Sokoto, Sokoto becomes headquarters, and any seat God sits on becomes the throne. So you can't dethrone him. But this being was able to swindle 1/3 of the angels. When he left and came to the earth, the Bible said, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. He said, for the great deceiver has come. And so when he came to the earth realm, the earth itself had to be judged, so that his government will be decimated. That was when the earth was destroyed. And if you study Jeremiah chapter 4, you will find all of these things written there. So when the Bible said, and the earth was void, darkness was upon the face of the deep, it's not because earth just became void. It was because of the judgment that was upon the princes. When the earth was woed, the earth was judged, and so the earth was destroyed. So chaos came upon the earth. And so when God came back to recreate the earth, he instituted a new governor, and he called him Adam. So he gave him authority. In Genesis chapter 1 verse 28, when he said, let them have dominion, he was establishing a new prince to represent the constituency of the earth realm. But Adam did not know that there was an ancient war, because the word have dominion is the word kuriotes. It means become like one of the ranking princes of heaven that have the right to exercise authority. And so when Adam was operating in that garden, he didn't know that his alignment was key. And so this prince came with subtlety and made him to rebel against God, because when he rebelled against God, he was also dethroned. So if Adam rebels, Adam will also be dethroned, and he will lose his authority over the earth realm. But the problem was not just that Adam will be dethroned. The problem was that another law exists in the spirit realm, and the law states that whoever you yield yourself servants to obey, the servants of him you are, whom you have obeyed. Romans 6:16. So when Adam decided to disobey God and to obey this prince, Adam shifted his allegiance, and so Adam became a servant of this prince. And there's another law, the law that says because Levi was in the loins of Abraham, Levi also paid tithe. It goes to mean that what the first does affects every other that comes out of him. And so because all of us were in Adam, our allegiance in Adam was transferred to the devil. But the unfortunate thing is, the devil doesn't know how to love. When the devil loves you, his love is wickedness, because the prince of this world, when he comes, he cometh not but for to kill, to steal, and to destroy. When authority was with Adam, he didn't have the right to interfere with the earth realm. Now that Adam has given him the authority, the constituency of the earth became his. This is why in 2 Corinthians 4:3, the Bible calls him the God of this world. And so in Adam, he took authority. Now that he has taken authority, even unborn children will be sick. Somebody asked Jesus in John chapter 9, who sinned that this man was born blind? He said, nobody. There's another God over this world, so he chooses what he wants to do. And so when Paul came up, Paul now began to show us a mystery. And this is where the gospel of Paul comes in. Paul said something. He said when Christ was on the cross and Christ was buried, he said two things happened. The cross of Jesus was a payment for the rebellion of Adam. Because the prophet Isaiah already said, all we like sheep have gone astray, and all of us have chosen our own way. So humankind had rebelled. And so the only way the effect of that rebellion would be atoned for was for another man who had the stature of Adam to come and obey God perfectly. And in order to test the veracity of his obedience, he was tempted up to the cross. And so the Bible called it the death of a criminal. But even in that worst state, he didn't change his loyalty. He didn't change his allegiance. And so when he hung on the cross there, he was reverting the effect of the rebellion of Adam. And so the sentence that was supposed to be put on Adam was put upon him. And so when the princes wanted to fight him, they thought it would be a fight of punches, but it was actually a fight of surrender. That's why the Bible said, if the princes of this world had known, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. Because when they were crucifying him, they were using him to correct the error of Adam. Adam rebelled against God, but Jesus obeyed God perfectly. Now, because Jesus had obeyed God perfectly, the room was now open for a contention for that authority to happen. Because one Adam rebelled, authority went to the devil. Another Adam obeyed, authority came to Jesus. So they wanted to dialogue and if necessary fight to see who will have supremacy, because now there's an equal ground. It would have been against the law of justice if Jesus just walked to the earth and takes the authority of the devil. That would be God cheating. That would be God using his sovereignty to his own favor. So God had to wait for Jesus to qualify where Adam failed. Now that Jesus has qualified, they wanted to fight the battle. And in order for God not to appear to be biased, they didn't fight the fight in heaven. They went to Hades, where the devil had the advantage. It was in Hades that the battle took place. So here was the authority of the first Adam with the devil, and then here is a second Adam who is called Lord from heaven, who has passed the test that the first failed. And so while they were in Hades, Paul now revealed to us what happened in Hades. In Colossians 2:14, he said, having spoiled principalities and powers. Having spoiled principalities and powers. He said he made a public show. He didn't hide it. A public show of them, triumphing over them by the cross. And so the battle of authority has been fought. And because this battle has been fought, you are no longer expected to fight. This is why you are called more than a conqueror. Jesus is the conqueror. Jesus is the conqueror. You are what? More than a conqueror, because you don't fight. You came to take the spoils of war. And so everything the devil held back because of authority, when you now show up and say, in the name of Jesus, it ends the matter. Because you are now a more than a conqueror. You come to take the spoils of war. The reason is because the battle has been fought, the battle has been concluded, somebody has been defeated, and the result was published on the global notice board. Every spirit is aware of it. And so when you come in the name of Jesus, you are coming in the victory of Christ. And so the devil now has no choice but to surrender.